The silence in the Berlin Federal Archives is not peaceful. It is a dense, heavy thing, pressing on the eardrums. It's the silence of buried secrets. Dr. Anya Vogel moves through it, a slight figure in the canyon of steel shelves. Her flashlight cuts a narrow beam in the dimness of the secure basement level. She isn't supposed to be here. The formal request for Box Z 1989-44 was denied. Severely fire damaged, unfit for handling. But Anya has a key, borrowed and not to be returned, and a name that haunted her since she found it scribbled in her grandfather's wartime diary: Icarus. The box is where her source said it would be. It is cold to the touch. She carries it not to the reading room, but to a disused restoration lab, its windows blacked out by decades of grime. Under the surgical glare of a single lamp, she opens it. The smell is catastrophic. Not just smoke, but the ghost of burning leather, ink, and something organic, maybe flesh. The contents are a heartbreak of history, a massacre of paper. Charred bundles fused together, black flakes settling like poisonous snow. She works with the tools of an archaeologist, a soft brush, a thin spatula. For an hour, it's fragments of nothing, fuel reports, typed menus for an officer's mess. Then her tool catches an edge, a photograph partially melted onto the cover of a field report. She teases it free. It's a man from the chest down. A German uniform, but the face, the rank insignia, gone, consumed by the fire. He stands on a Warsaw street, autumn 1942. In his gloved hand, a briefcase. On the briefcase, even through the burn damage, a tiny stylized bird emblem is visible. Not an eagle, an owl. Her heart hammers a single, painful beat against her ribs. She turns to the report, fused to the photo. The pages crackle with menace. Abwehr, Eastern Command. The subject: Source: Icarus. The product: ultra-specific order of battle data on Soviet defenses at Rzhev. Anya, a military historian, recognizes the units, the grid references. They are correct. This was real, priceless intelligence. A stamp marks it. Validated. Actioned. She knows what the action was. The 12th Panzer Division was rerouted. It led them straight into a minefield so dense the Germans called it der Teppich, the carpet. 5,000 men were lost in 3 hours. This was not a leak. This was a slaughter arranged on paper. Her phone vibrates, making her jump. A coded message from Moscow, Lev. It contains no text, just a blurry photograph of a document on a light table. She zooms in. NKVD letterhead. 1943. The subject: Source Werther. The summary: a warning of German plans to poison the water supply of Stalingrad using captured Polish chemists. The conclusion in red pencil: disinformation, source compromised, liquidate contacts. But the annotation, in a smaller hand, chills her blood. Liquidation order executed 12/04/43. 17 individuals. No trace of Werther found. 17 people died because of this report. But the source vanished. 2 documents, 2 worlds. One leads an army to its death. The other signs a death warrant for 17 souls. Her hands are steady, but a cold sweat traces her spine. She lays the burnt German page next to the photographed Soviet page on her screen. The dates are a week apart. The methodology is identical. Impeccable factual grounding leading to a catastrophic, deliberate lie. The door to the lab groans. Not a security guard? The step is too light. Anya freezes, her hand instinctively covering the burnt photograph. The steps pass. Recede. She waits 5 full minutes in the deafening silence, then packs the evidence. The box goes back to its tomb. The photograph and a few key fragments go into a shielded sleeve inside her blazer, against her skin. They feel like ice. Warsaw. The National Archive. Lev is already there. He is a man who has perfected the art of being invisible. He doesn't greet her, simply slides a single unmarked file across the table. Inside is not a document, but a diagram. Hand-drawn, on yellowed paper. A network chart. In the center, a symbol, an owl. From it, 3 lines. One to a box labeled ABW Icarus, one to a box labeled NKVD Werther. The third leads to a box with a Polish eagle and a single word, SOA, owl. SOA in Polish, the same emblem from the briefcase. At the bottom of the page, a list. Lista K. Names. Dozens of them. Professors, engineers, musicians. A footnote. Evacuated via Channel B, August-October 1943. SOA's primary objective secured. Anya's breath catches. This was not an intelligence operation. It was a rescue mission. Icarus and Werther weren't just feeding lies. They were creating noise, paralysis, mutual suspicion so violent, so all-consuming, that 2 monstrous security apparatuses would be too busy tearing at each other's throats to notice a quiet exfiltration of Poland's intellectual soul. Where did you find this? Her voice is a dry leaf rustle. It was inside the binding of a land registry, Lev murmurs, eyes never leaving the door. My predecessor found it in '89 he was about to publish. He died. A fall in the metro. Very convenient. The pieces locked together in her mind with an almost physical click. This is not a historical puzzle. It is a live mine. Someone, some apparatus, burned the German records. Someone buried the Soviet report in a psychiatric hospital file. Someone killed a man to hide this diagram. And the agent, the man with 3 code names. He wasn't playing the game. He was corrupting the very board. He used the lies fed to Berlin to get men killed, yes. He used the lies fed to Moscow to get innocents liquidated, yes. A moral abyss. But from that abyss, he pulled out List K. He saved them. What did that make him? A monster? A savior? A man who understood that in the total darkness of that war, light could only be bought with rivers of blood, some of which he personally, precisely directed. He had a name, Anya says, more to herself. Before they called him Icarus, and Werther, and Soa, he had a face. She thinks of the melted photograph, the uniform, the briefcase, the owl, a signature. A man so careful he left no identity, only a symbol of his true allegiance in the moment before the fire took him. Lev leans forward, his face grave. We are not researching history, Anya. We are digging up a grave. And in this profession, the dead do not like to be disturbed. They have friends. As if on cue, the lights in the vast reading room flicker. Once. Twice. Then they go out completely, plunging them into a blackness so absolute it feels like a solid wall. A distant alarm begins to wail, muffled by thick walls. But closer, in the darkness, there is another sound. The soft, deliberate click of a door latch opening. Not from the main entrance, from the staff door behind the rows of shelves. A door that was locked. In the pitch black, Anya's hand finds the shielded sleeve against her chest. The burnt fragment of a man's life. The only light now is the faint green glow of an exit sign, 20 meters away. And the sound of 1, then 2, sets of footsteps moving slowly, systematically, between the stacks of history, heading their way. The chapter ends in absolute darkness, with the present suddenly and violently colliding with the past. The ghost is no longer in the documents. It is in the room with them. And its protectors have come to finish the job the fire started. We do not return to the darkness of the archive. We are thrown into the light of a blinding, frost-rimed sun. Warsaw, January 1943. The air is sharp, with the smell of coal smoke and fear. This is the world of the man who will become a ghost. We see him first from behind, a silhouette against the grimy window of a second-floor apartment on Nowy Świat Street. He is not looking at the street. He is observing the reflection in the glass. A black Mercedes has been parked opposite for 17 minutes. 2 men inside. He notes the time, the license plate, the way the driver's cigarette ash falls. Ignored. Amateurs. Gestapo perimeter watch. They are not here for him. Yet. He turns. The room is sparse, a careful performance of impoverished anonymity. But the details betray him. The books on the shelf are arranged not by author but by thickness, a visual cipher. The desk is clear, but the faint dust outlines show where a writing blotter and a radio receiver recently sat. He is already packing. This is our agent. His name for now is Jan Kovac, a Slovak commercial liaison for the Ostindustry conglomerate. A nobody. He moves with an economist's precision. From a hidden compartment in the floorboard, he removes 3 items: a Leica camera, a single microfilm capsule, and a Luger P08 pistol. He checks the pistol's action, his hand steady, but there is a faint tremor in his left pinky finger. A old injury or sustained adrenaline. He loads the gun, then the camera. The microfilm goes into a slot inside his leather belt. His eyes scan the room one last time. They pause on a small framed photograph on the mantelpiece, face down. He does not turn it over. He simply removes it, places it in his inner pocket, over his heart. That single action is more revealing than any confession. It is the anchor, the why. The doorbell rings, not the coded pattern. A long, insolent press. Jan's posture does not change. He slides the Luger into a tailored holster at the small of his back, covers it with his suit jacket. He becomes Kovac instantly, shoulders slightly slumped, face adopting a mask of weary compliance. He opens the door. A young German corporal stands there, breath fogging in the cold. "Herr Kovac, you are requested. Immediately." The corporal's eyes dart past him, scavenging the room. Jan reads the uniform, the insignia, the mud on his boots. Not Gestapo, not SS. Wehrmacht signals intelligence. The Abwehr's errand boy. This is about Icarus. Of course. Let me fetch my coat. The drive is silent. The destination is not the imposing Gestapo headquarters, but a nondescript villa in Jolibors, once belonging to a Polish professor. Inside, the warmth is oppressive. The smell of good coffee and stale cigars. In a wood-paneled study sits Major Erich Strauss, Abwehr station chief. He is a man who resembles a tired bloodhound, but his eyes are chips of flint. "Icarus," Strauss says, dispensing with greetings. He slides a photograph across the desk. It shows a ruined Soviet T-34, its hull number clear. "Your report placed this battalion 10 kilometers north. It was here. It ambushed a reconnaissance column. 12 dead Germans." Jan does not look at the photo. He looks at Strauss's hands, the left thumb rubbing the index finger. A tell. Doubt. Not accusation. "Major." Jan's voice is calm, with a touch of offended professionalism. "The reconnaissance column was, according to the order I saw, scheduled for the valley route. I provided the terrain assessment advising against it. The Panzer Battalion was where I said. If the column deviated from its brief," he lets the implication hang. "Bureaucratic failure. Someone else's mistake." Strauss's thumb stops rubbing. He believes the lie because it flatters his own suspicion of Wehrmacht incompetence. But the test is not over. He pushes a file. A new target. We need verification of Soviet airfield capacities near Smolensk, satellite fields, fuel dumps, by Friday. This is the trap. The information Strauss holds is partially false. If Jan's report matches the false data, he is exposed. A feeding of confirmed facts leading to a poisoned conclusion. Jan takes the file. He does not open it. Friday is tight. The ice on the roads, but I have a contact near the railway logistics office. He can be persuaded. He names a real, mid-level Polish collaborator, a man Strauss knows is greedy and connected. A plausible source. He is not committing to the false data. He is building a scaffold of real people and real risks around his fabrication. Strauss nods, momentarily satisfied. The dance is done. For now. See that you do. The Reich is relying on your eyes, Icarus. Outside, in the frozen courtyard, John does not relax. He lights a cigarette, his back to the villa's windows. His mind is not on the Smolensk trap. It is on the microfilm in his belt. List K. The physicist, Stanisław Mazur, is next. His extraction is scheduled for tonight. But the Gestapo watch on his street, the Abwehr's heightened suspicion, it's a converging pressure. He needs to create a diversion, a fire for them to fight. He walks. The cold is a physical assault. He enters a small Catholic church, half damaged by shelling. In the confessional, he does not kneel. He slides a sealed message through the grill, a message for his Warsaw underground cell, for the SOA network. It contains precise, truthful intelligence. The location of a German radio direction finding truck, a critical tool for hunting resistance transmitters. The underground will attack it. It will create chaos, draw police resources. It is also a death sentence for the German crew. He knows their names from the order of battle sheets, young men from Hamburg. He signs their death warrant with a flick of his wrist. This is the unbearable arithmetic of his war. To save one, he must sacrifice others. To maintain the credibility of Icarus with Berlin, he must feed them real bloody victories sometimes. The tremor in his left hand returns. He clenches it into a fist. From the church, he goes to a public telephone exchange. He places a call to a number in Stockholm. A woman answers. A code phrase is exchanged. Into the mouthpiece, he speaks clearly, for the Soviet microphone he knows is listening. This is the voice of Werther. The package for Uncle Vasily is delayed. The merchant insists on gold, not rubles. I advise caution. In Moscow, this will be decrypted as a warning. The German intelligence buyout of a key NKVD source in Sweden is proceeding. The price is high. Beware of a double cross. It will trigger a wave of paranoia, recalls, interrogations. It will paralyze a Soviet network for weeks. It is a lie. There is no merchant. There is only the soothing, corrosive poison of mistrust he injects into the enemy's veins. 3 actions. 1 man. Abwehr satisfied. Gestapo soon to be in flames. NKVD thrown into disarray. And all of it, a smokescreen for a frail old man in a basement near the Vistula, waiting for a guide he will never see. The sun is setting, casting long, skeletal shadows. Jan returns to a different safe house. He develops the microfilm. The list of names glows in the red darkroom light. He adds a tiny mark next to Mazur's name. Almost done. He then prepares the Abwehr report on Smolensk. He weaves the false data Strauss gave him with genuine hard-won facts about Soviet anti-aircraft deployments. The resulting analysis is a masterpiece of deception. The airfields are a decoy. The real threat is the flak corridor. Any bombing run will suffer catastrophic losses. It is a report that will save Soviet planes and pilots. it will also inevitably lead to the deaths of German airmen sent to test the false truth. He signs it with his cipher, Icarus. He is building a house of cards where every card is a human life. Some he places with care, others he deliberately pulls out, causing collapses in distant rooms. As he works, he finally takes the framed photograph from his pocket. He does not look at it. He simply holds it, his thumb stroking the glass. His face, in the lone light of the desk lamp, is not that of a master spy. It is the face of a man drowning in a sea of his own making, sustained only by the tiny, precious weight of the image in his hand. The face of a man who has long since stopped counting the cost, because the final sum would be impossible to bear. The chapter ends with him extinguishing the lamp. He is not in darkness, but in the deep blue twilight of the Warsaw evening. He is a silhouette again. But now we have seen the machinery of his soul. We have seen the price. And we know the bill is coming due. The footsteps in the archive in our present are the echo of the avalanche he started in this winter of 1943. The ghost is taking shape, and he is made of equal parts ice, fire, and an ocean of blood. The pressure does not come from one side. It comes from all sides, like the walls of a collapsing mine. For our agent John, the trap is no longer a possibility. It is the architecture of his daily life. Every street corner holds a potential tale. Every knock could be the final one. The weight of the lies is no longer abstract. It manifests in the constant low hum of adrenaline in his teeth, in the way his eyes now automatically map exits and potential weapons in any room. We see him through a new lens. Exhaustion, the impeccable mask of Kovac, has fine cracks, a missed shave, a faint shadow under the eyes that no amount of stoicism can hide. He is burning his own life force to sustain the three ghosts he has created. The chapter opens with a sound, the relentless, metronomic clack, clack, clack of a teletype machine. It is in the basement of the Gestapo headquarters on Sucha Avenue. An SS Sturmbannführer named Vogt stares at a growing ribbon of paper. It is a decryption from signals intelligence. It details a recent devastating attack on a radio direction-finding truck. The coordinates, the timing, they match a security digest Vogt read days prior. The digest cited reliable but unconfirmed partisan chatter. But this is precise. Too precise. The report notes the sole surviving witness spoke of the attackers using a specific, rare type of Polish plastic explosive, a type only the elite SOA cell uses. Vogt's finger traces a line in the report. The unconfirmed chatter came from a low-level Abwehr asset, Jan Kovac. Clack, clack, clack. Another machine, hundreds of kilometers away in the Lubyanka. An NKVD analyst, a woman with a face like a closed vault, compares two messages. The first, Werther's warning about the merchant in Stockholm. The second, a fragment from a tapped Swedish diplomatic cable, mentioning a sudden, unexplained cancellation of a gold shipment. The correlation is not perfect, but it is enough to raise a flag of intense interest. Werther has proven prescient. But why? Is he a brilliant source inside German financial circles? Or is he being fed this information to build his credibility for a future catastrophic lie? The analyst stamps the file. Priority. Validate source identity. Clack, clack, clack. In the Abwehr villa, Major Strauss receives a visitor from Berlin, a cold, elegant man from the Fremde Heere Ost, Foreign Armies East, the military intelligence branch. He has a map. On it are pins marking Soviet defensive positions near Kursk. the brewing storm of Operation Citadel. Many pins are based on Icarus reports. The visitor's voice is quiet, lethal. Major, a discrepancy. Our aerial reconnaissance here and here, he taps 2 pins, shows empty fields. Icarus reported fortified artillery emplacements. Which is it? Is your source mistaken? Or is he creative? 3 machines. 3 institutions. Their separate suspicions are like slow-moving searchlights, beginning to sweep across the same patch of ground. Jan feels the shift in the atmosphere. His meeting with Strauss is no longer in the warm study. It is in a sterile third-floor office. The coffee is absent. Strauss does not look at him. "The man you named, your contact for the Smolensk data," Strauss begins, his voice devoid of its previous gruff camaraderie. "He was found this morning in the Vistula. His hands were tied. He had been questioned before drowning." Jan's face remains a placid lake. Inside, a calculation runs at lightning speed. The collaborator was a gamble, a disposable asset. His death is inconvenient, but not catastrophic. It severs a traceable link. He allows a flicker of appropriate shock. Gestapo? His fingernails were removed with pliers. The Gestapo uses needles under the nails. This was cruder. Partisan work. Strauss finally looks at him. Or someone making it look like partisan work, to cover a different silencing. The accusation hangs, unspoken but thick in the air. Jan's survival now depends on a single audacious move. He must redirect this suspicion upwards into a realm so politically toxic, Strauss will fear to tread. He leans forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Major, the man was a coward and a gossip. He bragged about his connections to certain circles in Berlin, circles opposed to the Admiral's leadership. He is referring to Admiral Canaris, head of the Abwehr, already under suspicion by the SS. Perhaps his information was not just for us. Perhaps he was feeding the same data to others, to create confusion before Citadel, to ensure failure." He lets the word hang. Failure, the greatest sin. "My reports are pure, but if my sources are compromised by political games in Berlin..." He trails off, throwing up his hands in a gesture of frustrated loyalty. It works. Strauss's paranoia, always simmering, finds a new target. The SS? Rival factions in the Abwehr? The searchlight veers away for a moment. But the reprieve is microscopic. That night, Jan's primary dead drop, a loose brick in a cemetery wall, is compromised. He approaches not directly, but from 3 angles over 2 hours. From his final vantage point, he sees it. The brick is slightly out of alignment. A millimeter, a hair caught in the mortar. A trap. This is not Abwehr. This is cleaner. This is the NKVD's illegal residency in Warsaw, hunting for Werther. They are closer than he imagined. He aborts the drop. The information inside, a routine Werther message meant to maintain his credibility with Moscow, is now a death sentence. He must destroy it. But its absence will also signal alarm. He is caught in a vice. The Gestapo suspects a partisan link. The Abwehr suspects political treachery. The NKVD is on his physical scent. The walls are not just closing in. They are beginning to touch his shoulders. His only solace, his only purpose, is List K. In a hidden cellar, he meets the physicist, Mazur. The old man's hands shake, not from cold, but from years of fear. "They took my colleague from the university last week," Mazur whispers. "He is gone." "He is on the list," Jan says, his voice surprisingly gentle. "He will be met at the transit point. You will see him in Krakow, then to the mountains." It is a lie. The colleague is almost certainly dead. But hope is the fuel for this escape. John administers it like a medicine. As he guides Mazur through the sewer access, the true cost of his game crashes down. A sudden patrol above, German voices, laughter, a flashlight beam skitters across the manhole cover. John presses Mazur against the foul, wet wall, his own body shielding him. He draws the Luger. His face, inches from the old man's terrified eyes, is not fear. It is a terrifying, absolute calm. The calm of a man who has already accepted the calculus of his own death versus the mission's success. He whispers, not a sound. The beam passes. The laughter fades. In that moment of absolute silence and stench, Mazur sees something in his savior's eyes. Not a hero, not a patriot. Something emptier and somehow more powerful. A vessel filled with nothing but will. It frightens him more than the Germans. The escape proceeds. But the encounter has cost John time, precious time. He arrives at his secondary fallback location, a small printer's shop. It is dark. The owner, his last reliable cutout to the Polish government in London, is not at his press. The smell of fresh ink is overpowering. Then Jan sees it. On the otherwise spotless typesetting table, a single fresh piece of paper. On it, typed with perfect alignment, are two words. SOA. Identify. It is not a request. It is a statement. His own network, the heart of his true allegiance, has been penetrated. By whom? The Gestapo? The NKVD? Or has the incredible stress of his triple game created a crack in his own organization? He does not touch the paper. He backs out of the shop, into the alley. For the first time, we see a crack in his flawless operational discipline. A single violent tremor runs through his entire body, a seismic release of suppressed terror. He leans against the brick wall, head bowed, fighting for breath. He is isolated, hunted by three empires, and now possibly betrayed by his only cause. The searchlights have converged. He stands in their blinding intersection. The next move is no longer about deception. It is about survival. And the only way to survive is to do the impossible, to make his three pursuers see not him, but each other as the ultimate enemy. He must start a war between the hunters. The chapter ends with John lifting his head. The tremor is gone, replaced by something darker, more resolved. He looks down the alley, into the consuming blackness. A ghost, cornered, prepares to stop being prey. He prepares to become the architect of his hunters' mutual destruction. The price for this will be everything that remains of the man named Jan. He knows this, and he accepts it. The chessboard is shattered. Jan no longer sees pieces to move. He sees fractures in stone. To survive the converging searchlights, he must not hide from them. He must blind them with their own reflected glare. He must turn their suspicion, their institutional vanity, and their raw, bureaucratic bloodlust against one another. His plan is not an operation. It is an act of psychological arson. He begins with the NKVD, the burned-out drop, the typed warning, SOA, identify. These are assets. He composes a new Werther message, his most valuable yet. It is not passed through normal channels. He uses a one-time emergency protocol, a signal chalked on a specific tram stop bench. It summons a low-level, known NKVD courier, a man already under vague Gestapo surveillance. The message the courier retrieves is a masterpiece of lethal fiction. It states, in Werther's cold, analytical style, that the Abwehr has achieved a monumental penetration. They have turned a high-level source within the NKVD's own Warsaw Residentura. This source, codenamed Cassandra, has been feeding doctored intelligence for months. deliberately sabotaging Soviet understanding of German intentions for the coming summer offensive at Kursk. The goal, Werther posits, is not mere deception, but to engineer a catastrophic Soviet overcommitment of reserves to the wrong sector. The message includes terrifyingly accurate details of actual NKVD internal security procedures. Details John has pieced together from years of patient observation and whispered confessions from turned agents. It names no names. It is more damning that way. It implies the cancer is everywhere. He knows what this will do. It will trigger a self-cannibalizing purge within the Soviet intelligence apparatus in Eastern Europe. Paranoia will become policy. They will hunt for Cassandra within their own ranks, tearing themselves apart from the inside. They will be blind to him, blind to SOA, blind to everything but the enemy within. Next, the Gestapo. He does not approach them directly. He becomes a rumor. Using the last threads of his crumbling SOA network, he has a trusted street kid whisper in the right taverns, where SS informants drink. The whisper speaks of a secret Abwehr plot, that the Abwehr, loyal to the old, suspect Admiral Canaris, is secretly protecting certain Polish intellectuals, spiriting them out of the Reich's grasp. Why? To preserve a post-war alternative for Germany, a betrayal of the Führer's total victory. The whisper gives a name, not Mazur, but another on List K, and a location, a safe house that Jan has already emptied and rigged with a single damning piece of evidence. He plants it himself, under cover of a blackout. In a hollowed-out Bible in the abandoned safe house, he places a microfilm. Not just any microfilm. It is a duplicate of a low-level Abwehr personnel file, one he stole months ago. But he has altered it. The file now shows the Abwehr officer as having secret meetings with a Polish contact, a contact Jan knows the Gestapo has already executed as a SOA operative. The connection is false, but the documents are real, the signatures perfect forgeries. It is a seed. The Gestapo, hungry for power and obsessed with the Abwehr's treachery, will find it. They will water it with torture and watch it grow into a narrative of treason. Finally, the Abwehr. For Major Strauss, he crafts his final report as Icarus. It is his magnum opus of deception. He delivers it in person, his face a mask of grim urgency. He tells Strauss he has uncovered the source of the discrepancies, the political games he hinted at before. It is not just rivals in Berlin. It is a direct, stealthy attack by the SS intelligence service, the Sicherheitsdienst, or SD. He presents circumstantial, yet plausible, evidence. An SD informant seen near the dead collaborator's flat. A radio frequency used by the SD matched to a signal near the compromised dead drop. They are not just cleaning up partisans, Major, Jan says, his voice trembling with manufactured outrage. They are systematically dismantling your network to claim the intelligence victory for Himmler. They are sabotaging Zitadel to discredit the Abwehr. They are stitching a noose for Admiral Canaris. And for you. He gives Strauss a gift and a weapon, the real, verified location of a major Soviet arms depot near the front line. A target so juicy, Strauss cannot ignore it. Bomb it, Jan says. Claim the credit loudly, before the SD can steal the data or discredit it. Force their hand. Show Berlin who produces real results. It is a triple strike of pure poison. Each intelligence leviathan is now presented with an existential threat that comes not from the enemy, but from its rival sibling. The NKVD will hunt its own. The Gestapo will hunt the Abwehr. The Abwehr will prepare for war with the SS. Jan sets the fuses and withdraws. He becomes a ghost in truth, moving through Warsaw like a chill draft. He watches from a rooftop as the Gestapo, in a fleet of black cars, storms the Abwehr Villa. He is not close enough to hear the shouts, but he sees Major Strauss being led out, not in handcuffs, but with a face of apocalyptic fury. The purge has begun. He watches from a cafe as two NKVD men, their faces Slavic, but their coats all wrong for the district, apprehend a third Russian in a public park. It is fast, brutal, efficient. The internal devouring. His creation is working. A maelstrom of mutual suspicion is brewing at the highest levels of the occupying powers. But in the eye of this storm, John finds no peace. He visits the final safe house, where the last members of List K are hidden. They look at him not as a savior, but as a force of nature. A necessary, terrifying storm that has swept them up. He gives them their final instructions, routes, passwords. His voice is monotone, emptied. A young woman, a chemist, dares to speak. "And you? You come with us?" He looks at her, and for a fleeting second the mask is not just off. It is absent. What she sees is not a man, but a husk, scraped raw by the endless calculus of betrayal. "My path is elsewhere," he says. The finality is absolute. He knows the truth. His creation is too perfect. The fires he lit will rage, but fire seeks fuel. The Gestapo, digging into the Abwehr, will find threads. The NKVD, torturing its own, will extract fragments. They will compare notes in the secret, high-level meetings of the occupiers, and in the center of the Venn diagram of their separate nightmares, they will find a common shadow. A phantom who fed them all, played them all, set them at each other's throats. They will not know his name, but they will know his existence, and they will unite in one purpose: to erase him. He has achieved his mission. List K will escape, borne to safety on the very waves of chaos he generated. But he has also engineered his own end. The ultimate logic of his triple game demands a final, unifying sacrifice. The ghost must be laid to rest to satisfy the hunters and close the file. In the gloom of the safe-house cellar, he does one last thing. He removes the photograph from his pocket. For the first time, we see it. It is not a lover, not a child. It is a group of young men and women, students, laughing on a sunny lawn before the war. He is among them, his face open, unburdened, a different species of human. He stares at this fossil of his former self, not with nostalgia, but with the detached curiosity of an archaeologist. He then strikes a match. He holds the flame to the corner of the photograph. He watches as the fire consumes the laughing faces, one by one, until it reaches his own. He holds it until the flames lick his fingers, then drops the last, burning fragment to the stone floor, grinding it to ash under his heel. Jan Kovac, Icarus, Werther, Soa, they are all gone. Only the final unnamed agent remains. His work is done. All that is left is to choose the manner of his vanishing, and to ensure it fuels the final, confirming myth that will seal the escape of the others. The chapter ends with him stepping out into the Warsaw night. The air is charged with the silent sirens of institutional panic he has triggered. He walks not into darkness, but into the culmination of his own brilliant, terrible design. He is the architect walking calmly into the collapsing building. The ultimate move is not to escape the trap, but to become the trap itself. The present. The archive is a tomb of shadows. The footsteps between the shelves are not a hallucination. They are real, methodical, and close. Anya Vogel presses herself against the cold steel of a shelf unit, the burnt fragment of the photograph, a searing brand against her chest. Lev's breathing is a shallow rasp beside her. The green exit sign is a mocking, distant star. A beam of light cuts the darkness, sweeping across catalog numbers. Not a flashlight. The cold, white LED of a tactical torch, held in a professional gloved hand. "The file is not here," a voice says, calm, speaking German with a faint, unplaceable accent. It was a lure. They are. Anya's blood freezes. They weren't just digging up a grave. They were walking into an open grave. The footsteps stop. The light beam hovers on the spot where they had been sitting. On the table, their notes, the copied diagram of the owl, the printouts of the NKVD and Abwehr files. The light lingers on the owl. "SOA," another voice, gruffer, replies. They connected it. "Clean it up. Thorough." There is a soft metallic shick sound, a suppressor being threaded onto a pistol barrel. This is it. The ghost's legacy, not just a historical mystery, but an active, living secret so dangerous it still requires killing to protect. The man with 5 names reaches from 1943 and pulls the trigger in the present. But Lev moves, not away, towards the sound. He shoves a heavy cart of binders with a sudden, desperate strength. It crashes into the aisle with a deafening clatter of metal and exploding paper. "Run!" he hisses at Anya, his voice finally filled with the emotion he'd spent a lifetime suppressing. "To the stairwell! Now!" The gunshot is a muffled phut, swallowed by the chaos of the falling cart. Lev grunts, stumbles. Anya doesn't see him fall. She runs. The exit sign is her universe. She crashes through the fire door into the concrete stairwell, the slam echoing like a cannon shot. She doesn't go down to the street. She goes up into the older labyrinthine parts of the building, her mind screaming with a single coherent thought. The photograph. The uniform. The owl. She bursts into a disused attic storage, barricades the door with a broken desk. In the dim light from a grimy window, she pulls the fragment from her blazer. The burnt edge, the German uniform, the briefcase with the owl. She uses her phone's light, magnifying the image. The uniform, not just any uniform. The cut, the pocket flaps. It's a Reichspost uniform, the Postal Service. The one entity with freedom of movement across all borders, all checkpoints. The perfect cover. And the owl. Not just a Polish symbol. It was a specific unit. The Underground's SOE. The Owls, a cell of document forgers and intelligence analysts. He wasn't just using the name. He was signaling his origin. He was one of them. The first name, the name before all the others, was there. She just couldn't see it. She hears steps on the stairs. Slow. Confident. They have time. She is trapped. She looks at the photograph fragment. And she understands. The final move. Not to hide, but to be found. By the right people. She takes out her phone. She has no signal. But she has the photos. She uploads every image, the burnt Abwehr report, the NKVD memo, the owl diagram, the photograph fragment, into a draft email. She sets a delayed send to 3 addresses: the head of the Historical Institute, a major newspaper, and a private server she controls. The timer. 10 minutes. If she doesn't cancel it, it goes out. The ghost will be exposed, not to killers, but to the world. The door handle rattles, then stops. A calm voice speaks through the wood. "Dr. Vogel, you have something that does not belong to you. Give it to us. This can end quietly." "It belongs to history," she shouts back, her voice cracking. "History is a luxury. The voice replies. A boot kicks the door, once. The old wood splinters around the lock. Anya does not cower. She stands, holding the burnt fragment up to the weak light from the window. His name! What was his real name? A second, more brutal kick. The door flies open. The man is silhouetted against the brighter light of the stairwell. He holds a pistol with a long, dark cylinder at its end. He does not aim it yet. He looks at her, at the fragment in her hand. That, he says, is the one question that must never be answered. Some ghosts must remain ghosts, for the good of everyone. He takes a step inside. Anya's thumb hovers over her phone screen. The timer counts down. 0:58. 0:57. Stop, a new voice says. From the shadows of the attic behind a rack of old maps, Lev emerges. He is pale, clutching his side, his hand dark with blood. But he is standing, and in his other hand, he holds not a weapon, but a small, ancient, leather-bound journal. It was not in the official archives. It was his own, passed down. I have it, Lev says, his voice strong and clear. The answer, the fifth name. It is in here. The name he was born with. The name he erased to become a ghost. The assassin's focus shifts entirely to Lev. The pistol rises. If you shoot him, the email sends, Anya says, her voice steel now. She shows the screen. The draft has everything, including your face if I take a picture now. It goes to the world in 45 seconds. You can't kill the truth. He proved that. The man freezes. The professional calculus is clear. A physical victory now guarantees a strategic defeat. The ghost escapes his control forever. What do you want? The man snarls. The truth, Anya says. Not for us. For him. He saved his people by becoming nothing. The least he deserves is to be remembered as nothing, but for the right reason. As Soa. Not as a traitor to any flag, but as a man who played monsters against each other to save what they sought to destroy. You walk away, the ghost stays a ghost. But the story of the ghost, that becomes ours. A standoff in a dusty attic. The timer ticks. 0:15. The man lowers his weapon a millimeter, a silent, furious concession. He backs toward the shattered door, his eyes never leaving Lev's journal. That book, he says. It dies with you. There are no copies. There are always copies, Lev whispers, a faint smile on his bloodless lips. That was his genius. The man vanishes into the stairwell. The footsteps fade, running this time. Anya cancels the email send. She rushes to Lev, applying pressure to his wound. He slumps against her, but his eyes are clear, victorious. The name, she breathes. In the journal, what is it? Lev looks at her, and in his eyes she sees not the answer but the deeper truth. He opens the journal to the last written page. It is not a name. It is a list. List K. Every name saved. And at the top, a single line in elegant, pre-war handwriting. They are my name. They are my country. Let the rest burn. There was no fifth name. There were only the names he saved. He had erased himself so completely that his only remaining identity was the lives he preserved. The ultimate sacrifice was not of his life, but of his very self. The ghost was not a man. He was an act. A violent, brilliant, terrible act of love for a nation that was being erased. He became the void from which their future could be reborn. In the distance, sirens wail. Help is coming. Anya holds Lev, looking at the burnt fragment in her hand, the uniform, the briefcase, the owl. She sees it not as a clue to an identity, but as a manifesto. A statement of purpose. She will write the story. She will call him Soa. She will detail the triple game, the manufactured chaos, the saved lives. She will not give him a birth name. She will give him back his chosen name, the protector in the shadows, the owl that saw in the darkness and outsmarted the hawks. The chapter and the story ends not with a revelation, but with an acceptance. Some heroes cannot be carved in stone. They are etched in the negative space, in the silence between the gunshots, in the lives that continued because a man chose to become a perfect, self-consuming lie. The man with 5 names is finally given a 6th, memory, and that is the only one that matters. The final image is not of a face, but of the burnt photograph fragment, the owl emblem on the briefcase, catching the first light of dawn through the attic window. A symbol, not a person. A legacy, not a life. Perfect. Complete. And finally, at peace.